Right then guys, how's it going and welcome back to another fantasy football video. Today is the day when we officially lock in my team ready for the start of the 21-22 Premier League season this Friday. That's Friday, it's not Saturday, it's Friday. First game of the season is Brentford taking on Arsenal at 8 o'clock, which means the deadline is Friday at 6:30. So you've got pretty much 48 hours to make all of your final changes. Do not wake up on Saturday morning and realise you didn't make them in time, because I do that on a weekly basis when it comes to transfers. So do not do it for the first week of the Premier League. The team you are looking at is the team we were left with at the end of my video last week, where I basically did my first draft. If you've not seen that yet, I would still suggest you go and take a look. I run through all of the fixtures, favourable fixtures for certain teams to start the season, a few players that I like the look of. I won't be going in as much detail today. Today will be more about basically finalising my team. I actually know exactly what I'm going to do with this team, but I'm going to do it with you guys. I've got it all written down in front of us here. Since the last video, I always do my research before the fantasy football. I do really enjoy it. I like basically micromanaging every single decision of is this better, is that better. But dear me, I think it's been worse this season than it has any other, because there's so many teams that are just a little bit all over the place. I think with the Euros being on, there's players coming back late, there's been some last minute injuries, and there might well still be some changes between now and Friday. But I'm going to let you know what I'm going to do as of right now, what my team is going to look like for the start of the season. But before I get into that, I should say, if you haven't already, be sure to join my league. The code will already be on the screen, but if I go ahead and click on it, you can see loads of you guys are in here already, so be sure to jump in if you haven't. If you haven't made your team yet, but you were in the league last year, as soon as you make your team, it should automatically pop you in. But if it hasn't, as I say, the code will be on screen. I'll put the links in the description as well. As for transfers, if you didn't watch my video last week, or you don't follow my fantasy football for the last few years, and you can probably tell just by looking at my team anyway, I always go for cheap defenders, expensive midfielders and attackers. Now, I think of all the teams I've seen online, I think I'm the only one that doesn't even seem to have Alexander-Arnold in, which I am slightly concerned about. And spoiler alert, I'm not about to put him in my team today either. I definitely could. To start off, you can see De Bruyne, potential injury. The money's there to put him in, but I'm not going to. But on the topic of cheap defenders, Manquillo, 4 million. I've been looking at the 4 million options. Hang on a second. Robertson for Liverpool is now injured. Apparently, they reckon it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. Bearing in mind we have an international break in 4 weeks' time, it doesn't look long term. It might be longer. We don't know. It might be less. But on the topic of Liverpool defenders, cheap defenders, this guy seems to have just blown up overnight. I'd love to get his name right first time, but I'm not going to. Tsimikas, £4 million defender, I'm going to bring in for Manquillo. Look, he might not start. Liverpool might play Milner left back. Robertson might only be out for the first week, and then it's not really had the impact that I wanted it to. But to be honest, my 4 million Manquillo Newcastle defender, I think he's 2 people away from getting into our team at the moment, whereas Tsimikas could well start against Norwich. So it's a bit of a punt. Hang on, we'll change it to percentage picked. He's picked by 12% of people. I looked earlier today, I think it was 10. So people are picking up on this and putting him in. Again, people are doubling up Alexander-Arnold and Tsimikas. I am not doing that. But in terms of a £4 million defender, I always like to try and find the bargains if they're there. I think he is one of the best bets going. So we're going to give him a whirl. Fingers crossed, at least for the first few weeks, he might pull in a few easy points. Or some cheap points, I should say. Nothing's going to be easy in the Premier League. Some cheap points. And then people are normally wild carding around the international break anyway. So if Robertson is back, we can then look to make changes there. We'll go into midfield and then we'll come back to the defence. So, hang on, we'll change this to all players as well. So midfielders, you can see I have Salah, De Bruyne and Fernandes. I wanted the three big hitters in. I want to leave them there all season and let them do their thing. However, De Bruyne was already a potential risk. He was obviously partially injured for the majority of the Euros. Then we weren't sure whether he was going to play or not. And now Pep has come out and basically said that neither De Bruyne or Foden looks ready to start this season for the first game. And to be honest, they're playing Spurs in the first game, so I wouldn't say it's the easiest fixture anyway. But Man City's been a real headache because, let's go on Man City. De Bruyne potentially injured. Foden potentially injured. Grealish has just signed. I actually wouldn't have thought Grealish would have got a game first game. I thought Pep would have said, you know what, we're going to give him some time, bed him with the players. I don't think Sterling is long back into training from the Euros. Grealish is picked by almost a third of people, so people seem to be quite keen on him, and maybe he's a good option. But I am actually going to swap out De Bruyne and go for Mahrez instead. And again, Mahrez is not a player I would have gone for in previous seasons. I always go for the players that I know are nailed on, which is pretty much Salah, Fernandes, De Bruyne. But Man City is so tough to judge right now just because of the fact that people are coming back late and because of the potential injuries. And I actually think Mahrez got... I think this is one of the times where you can actually say I think Mahrez will start. He was one of the few senior players who was actually there in the Charity Shield game. I think he's going to start, so I'm going to go for him. I think he's got real potential in there for the price. Obviously, that then wavers when these other players start coming back or coming in fit. You could possibly say for $1 million less, maybe Grealish is the better option, especially when he may want to take the reins while De Bruyne and Foden are out and show what he can do in that Man City team. But I am still not 100% convinced Pep will play him first day of the season. I mean, they've just spent 100 million on him. You'd think they would, but it's Pep, and I'm not sure. So I'm gonna stay quiet on that one for now. And then we'll talk about strikers while we're here. That's 3 million in the bank there. That could be an upgrade to Alexander-Arnold. It could potentially be a change in the striker positions, but, and I'll keep it short and sweet, I am going to stick with those three in there. Tony, 30% owned for a promoted striker. I mean, Brentford have got some fantastic fixtures to start, and the promoted teams always come in on a high. If he can do what Pukki did a few years ago, I think that could be the bargain of the season, having him in. But it still is a promoted team, and to expect too much too soon might be too much to ask. But again, 4 or 5 weeks time, people often wildcard and make some big changes anyway. So for 6.5 million, is it worth the risk? Quite possibly. The problem is because he's so highly owned, if he does nothing first game against Arsenal on the Friday and everyone starts transferring him out, you could well lose some money quickly. But if he starts scoring, because he's such a low price, you could gain money quickly as well. So yeah, I've put him in, and then we've got Wilson and Antonio. I mean, in terms of strikers, Harry Kane, Nuno has come out and said that Kane is fit to play against Man City, or is available to play. Will he play him? We don't really know, so I'm probably not going to risk it. 21% of people are risking it. Could he go to Man City? Will the price shoot up? Yes. After that, the next premium striker I'd say is Vardy with 12%. But I think we're a little bit spoiled for choice for these 7.58 millions. Antonio, West Ham, fantastic player again. Wilson for Newcastle. It always scares me because I'm a Newcastle fan. I don't like to back my own team. But if we're going to get anything, it's going to be him, to be honest. And he takes the penalties. And again, it's an ifs and buts. Because I was going to say, Danny Ings, he's shot up in ownership. He's almost catching up Tony at 28% after signing for Villa. I already mentioned I wasn't a Watkins fan anyway. Now that Ings is in, he's got to be the main man, surely. So people are backing him for an extra 0.5. I could even upgrade Tony to Ings. Or so that is a good one. And Villa's fixtures are very decent as well. Starting off with Watford, then Newcastle, then Brentford, then Chelsea. But 3 very good starting games. Similar to Wilson. If Newcastle sign Willock, he's going to do better. Aston Villa have lost Grealish. So again, is the potential chances going to be as good for Ings or as good for Watkins last season? The same for Ings now that Grealish isn't there? We don't know. So the more I'm talking about it, I'm convincing myself that maybe I should have Ings in instead of Antonio or Wilson. But I'm going to stick to what's on here, or I'll get back into chopping and changing again. So yeah, I'm going to leave them the way they are. I think in terms of strikers, if someone went, I've got Bamford, I'd go, yeah, it's a good shout. If someone went, I've got Calvert-Lewin, I would say, yeah, it's good. If someone went, I've got Cavani, I would say, yeah, it's a decent shout. I honestly think there is a lot of options and there's a lot of different price points. I think, you can see here, 30, 30, 20, 20, 20, 15. I mean, there's about 10 or so strikers there that everyone has in a different combination. So we will have to see what way that goes. My 3 million extra, what am I going to do with it? Well, I'm going to take Smith Rowe out. And I've already mentioned Mahrez as being a player I wouldn't normally go for because you cannot guarantee minutes. But I'm going to put in another player that I also cannot guarantee minutes for. And that is Jota. It's 7.5 million. Again, it could be Jota, it could be Firmino. I could have got it horribly wrong with that one. What percent picked is he? 11.3%, so he's a bit of a different player to put in there. I think I'm going to stick with it. I think he's a very good player, and having seen a little bit of the pre-season stuff, I honestly think that Jota will start the season again. I think he will play in the first game against Norwich. I just don't know whether he'll necessarily keep his place. I think if he scores, he may well stay in there, but Klopp has got players that he can change. Well, it's Firmino, isn't it? It's between the two. I think for 7.5, Jota is a fantastic pick. It's just how much game time is he going to get? But again, it goes back to I'm probably going to be wildcarding in 4 or 5 weeks' time once I know what's actually going on. If Jota plays all those games, then great. If he doesn't, then I'll look to change him. And then my final change with my 1 million that I've got left in the bank is going to be Ayling out. And to be honest, I hummed and hawed about this one as well, but I'm going to stick with what I've got because I'll be here forever. I put Digne in from Everton. Again, Everton, Southampton first game, Leeds second game, Brighton third game, Brentford fourth game, Aston Villa fifth game, Norwich sixth game, and then Manchester United seventh game. So a fantastic fixture run. It almost makes me think, why have I not got Calvert-Lewin in? But he does have a potential knock there. Again, it's 0.5 for Calvert-Lewin. I could easily downgrade one of these defenders for another 4 million. I normally have sometimes 2 4 million defenders, but because of the fact that De Bruyne is injured, I've not gone for Harry Kane, I've not gone for Vardy. I've actually moved my money around a lot more than, to be honest, I would normally do. And that is what we're looking at. So as I say, I've actually got 3 playing players on the bench, which is pretty much unheard of for me. I normally have at least 4 million who's just never getting near. But that is actually not the case. You know, Ben White playing against Brentford first game. But then I do have Tony, so maybe it's a good thing he's down there, so I'm not doubling up on myself. I already had Salah captain. I think I'm going to stay there, and then Fernandes with the vice, and that's the team pick I would go for the first game. So yeah, if Timicas plays, then that is music to my ears. Hopefully we can get a decent performance out of Digne, and you know, sure, presuming he is going to be back and playing in the first game for Manchester United. My midfield, I think, is spot on. Just hoping that Mahrez and Jota both play and start. I mean, it's not an easy starting game for Mahrez. And then my front 3, again, you know, Wilson's taking the pens. I believe so does Tony. And would Antonio take them if Noble isn't on the pitch? He may well do. But yeah, that is it for me. I've talked for longer than I planned, and that was with it actually planned out. I could have talked for hours if I'd just come on here and done whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching as always. I hope that's been helpful in some way, shape or form. Drop a like on the video, join the league if you haven't already, and I do plan to continue making these each week through the season, so be sure to look out and subscribe, as I say. Alright guys, thanks for watching as always. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you later.